Buenos Aires is a massive city, and if you're coming to the city for the first time, you might feel a little bit overwhelmed. You don't know what to do or where to start. So if that's the way you're feeling, I have made a guide of 15 places that you can go to for free. So if you're not sure where to start with the free things and then go from there. I will start with my favorite place, which is San Telmo. If you're walking around San Telmo during the week in the middle of the afternoon, you might be wondering where everyone is, because that's how I felt as well. But if you go to San Telmo in the evening, or especially on a Sunday, that's where you're gonna see all the people and all the action. There's a Sunday market in San Telmo, Feria de San Telmo, which the area is famous for. The main center is in Plaza Dorrego. But going all along Calle Defensa, there are tons of booths and other market stalls where you can find concert t-shirts, mate, cups and bombilla, knives, clothing, paintings, anything you can imagine. It's like 12 or 13 blocks long, with a few other side streets as well that have the feria. San Telmo is known for antiques. So especially in Plaza Dorrego, you're going to find a lot of antiques, a lot of old things like old dolls, vintage glassware, jewelry, things of that nature. In Plaza Dorrego, you will also see live tango, which is what the area is known for, as well as street performers all along Calle Defensa. Since you're in San Telmo anyway, there are a couple other things that you can visit. One is La Casa Mínima, which is the smallest, the thinnest apartment building in the entire city. There's a myth that this apartment was given to an enslaved person upon becoming free. I don't know if that's actually the truth, but it is the rumor. The other thing to see is tiny little Mafalda statues. Mafalda is a very famous Argentine character from a comic strip, and so along Calle Defensa, you'll also see a little corner where they have the Mafalda characters. If you're like me and you love books and bookstores, you will love El Ateneo Grand Splendid. It is a bookstore that is inside what used to be a grand theater. Where the stage used to be, there is now a little cafe. And where the balconies were, there are books all along the shelves, all along the walls. It's multi-level. It's honestly incredible. It's one of the most beautiful bookstores I have ever seen in my entire life. They're totally fine with tourists wandering around and looking at things. They're used to it. Just make sure to keep your mask on at all times, because there are guards who are watching for that, for you to take it off. So if you are looking for a book, another place to go is the Rivadavia Book Fair. It is on the east side of the Parque Rivadavia, in the neighborhood of like Almagro and Caballito. Basically, there are tons of kiosks all in one area along this path, and each kiosk is individually owned. So when the feria opens, it's not like everything is open. Each individual owner has the choice of when he or she wants to open. But this is a great place to get new or used books, records, magazines, and you can really get good deals here, although I don't recommend bargaining. I don't think it's common practice. There are a couple things to see in the Plaza de Mayo. One of them is El Cabildo. La Casa Rosada and El Cabildo basically stare at each other from across the plaza. El Cabildo used to be a government building, and now it's basically just a museum. So you can enter for free. There are like 2 or 3 rooms on the bottom floor where you can see old kind of remnants of the city and a printing press. You can also go upstairs, and from there you can go on the balcony. There's an amazing view of La Casa Rosada. You can also go in the back. There's a couple more smaller houses where they have a few other rooms to show you what things used to look like and the history of the Cabildo. It actually used to be a bit taller and wider, but they had to shorten it to allow for the 2 avenidas that are now on each side of it. Also in the back there is an artisan fair, so if you're interested in some arts and crafts, you can find them back there. Across from El Cabildo is La Casa Rosada, which is the president's house. Very similar to the way that the White House is in the United States, La Casa Rosada is the Pink House in Argentina. The main difference is that the president does not actually live in La Casa Rosada. However, you can do tours. You just have to look on their website to make an appointment. Basically, La Casa Rosada did not start out rosada, as pink. It used to be a fort when the Spanish were here, and in 1810, once Argentina gained independence, it turned into a government building. It's a myth, but they say that the reason that the Casa Rosada is pink is because the two main political parties at the time were red and white. So they wanted to mix the colors to show the mixing of political ideals and working together, so they made the house pink. Another government building, which is just about 10 blocks away from Plaza de Mayo, is Congreso. The Congreso building is really beautiful. It reminds me a lot of European architecture. This is the Argentine National Congress, which holds the two branches of Congress, which are the Senate and the Chamber of Deputies. They do offer free tours. You just need to make an appointment. They have tours in both English and Spanish at different times of the day. While you're there, you might as well walk around the Plaza del Congreso, which is a massive plaza just in front. You'll see a lot of people exercising there. There are outdoor workout classes, a bunch of teens hanging with friends, people having mate. It's a very social plaza. In Buenos Aires, there are two main cemeteries. Of the two, La Recoleta is definitely the most famous, and probably so because Evita Perón has her grave there. So several tourists every day come by and leave roses or flowers or different things for Evita Perón. So if you go, you will probably see a big crowd in front of her vault, as well as some flowers and other things. But you should definitely take your time and walk around this cemetery, and I suggest getting there early before other tourists get there, because it's really amazing and it's really beautiful, and you can enjoy it a lot more when it's quiet and you can really feel the ambiance of the place. The second cemetery of Buenos Aires is Chacarita. It is less known and definitely less people go there, but I personally think it's worth a visit. It's actually bigger than La Recoleta. It's divided into two halves. When you first enter, there's a street with trees on each side, and then jutting off from that main street are a bunch of different smaller streets full of vaults and mausoleums. And I suggest just taking your time walking around, because the small details are really beautiful. There's a bunch of stained glass and sculptures. There's even a monument to those who used to play on the Boca Juniors team, and a lot of famous Argentinian artists are buried here as well. This cemetery actually began when Buenos Aires had a yellow fever outbreak, and the Recoleta Cemetery was not allowing people with yellow fever to be buried there, so the Chacarita Cemetery was opened by students to basically house those who had died of yellow fever. The Chacarita Cemetery is actually the biggest cemetery in all of Argentina. The Floralis Generica was gifted to Buenos Aires by an architect by the name of Eduardo Catalano in the year 2002. This flower has 6 petals, all of which are made of steel, and they're connected electronically so that every morning the flower opens its petals and every evening it closes its petals. According to the architect, Floralis signifies belonging to flowers, and Generica comes from the word gender, which indicates that it represents all the flowers in the entire world. The Floralis sits in the middle of a reflecting pool, and around that is a big park. So if you go to the park, you'll see people there having mate, having picnics, hanging out, running, exercising. So I do recommend bringing a blanket or a book and just hanging out for a couple hours. It's a very nice park. The Obelisco of Buenos Aires is that huge, tall point that you see right in the middle of Avenida 9 de Julio, which is the 14-lane highway. But the Obelisco is straight up in the middle of the highway, so it's very easy to see. It was originally created in 1936. You'll see on the side that there's an inscription that said that this is the place where the Argentinian flag was first flown. Now, that doesn't mean it was flown on the Obelisco, but it was flown in the church that used to be in that location. If you go and want to take photos, the best spot is probably on the north side, because there you'll find the letters BA, which are made from plants. But just be aware, you'll probably have to wait in line because there's usually a bunch of people waiting to take their photos with the BA, the Argentinian flag, and the Obelisco. Buenos Aires has a ton of parks, mostly around the Palermo area, but I personally think the best one is 3 de Febrero Park. It's huge, it's well maintained, it's really clean, it feels safe. My friend told me that there are beavers in the rivers and the lakes there. I didn't see them, but that's what he says, so maybe you can find them. But there's also an Andalusian fountain, which was gifted to the city of Buenos Aires by the city of Sevilla. This is a great place to just come, have a picnic, hang out, bring a book, bring a blanket. Especially if you're staying in Palermo, you're really lucky to be so close to this park. The Barrio Chino is in Belgrano, and it's a few streets full of Asian supermarkets, restaurants. You can get boba tea. I was there on Chinese New Year, so the streets were full and packed and there was a lot going on, so that was really cool to see. But at the start of Chinatown, you'll see the huge Chinese arch, which marks the beginning. And that was actually constructed originally in China and then brought over to Buenos Aires piece by piece. I'm really not into horse racing, but I happened to go to the Hipodromo totally by accident, and it was a very cool experience. There were tons of people hanging out in the stands all around, drinking beer, having dinner. There were even some food trucks behind to get food. The Hipodromo area is actually open 24 hours a day, so you can go and check it out even when there are not races going on. However, there are usually about 3 days a week when they have races. Caminito means like little path, little street, and it's in the center of the neighborhood La Boca. Now, admittedly, this is definitely one of the most touristy areas of all of Buenos Aires, but I do think that it's worth a visit even just for one afternoon, because it's really cool to see. The entire neighborhood is painted with bright colors. It's full of tango on the streets, tango in restaurants, tango painted on the walls, and there are people dressed in tango outfits. There are a ton of restaurants and markets and little shops all around this area. Of course, in the center on Caminito, the restaurants will be the most expensive, but I suggest that you just walk around the entire neighborhood because the whole neighborhood is painted with these bright colors. You can easily find other parrillas and cafes and other restaurants that are just as great. So this may not be an area you want to stay in, but I do suggest spending at least an afternoon there. The last thing is the Centro Cultural Recoleta. This is not far from the Recoleta Cemetery, it's just around the corner. But this cultural center has a ton on offer. You can go to art exhibits, take classes, there are concerts and different events, and most of which are free. If you want to go to the events, you just need to make an appointment, which you can do on their website. Or if you want to go to an art exhibit on that day, you can also just go, enter the building, and talk to the information person at the desk in the front, and they can help you make your appointment or turno to go see the art exhibits. And that's what I did. I just went in and asked what it was all about, and she helped me to make an appointment that day to go see some other art exhibits. And that's it. So I hope that was helpful for you and gives you a place to start to discover this amazing city, which is my favorite city in the entire world. And if you want to dig into the food of the culture of Buenos Aires and Argentina, just click on this video where I go through a whole day of what I eat in Buenos Aires. Why not?